Hello and good afternoon. Welcome back to the machine bag sew along. And today is the third session we're on right now. We started by cutting out the different fabric pieces, and then we interfaced them. That was all done on day one. Then on day two, we started with the zip gusset and the base, preparing the base gusset as well. And today is day three, where we're going to construct the gussets, the ones that go round the machine bag, and we'll start constructing the main panels as well. I would like to say a big thank you to every single person that's been with us from the very beginning. And if you're joining us for the first time, I would like to welcome you as well. It might look complicated, but it's really is an easy pattern to follow as long as we follow all the instructions and we do all what we're meant to do. So in the last session, we did we completed the zip gusset, and what we needed to do was make sure that the width of the gusset was the same as the width of the base gusset. The zipper gusset, the width is the same as the base gusset. So what we're going to do today is trim down the zipper gusset. So that's the one where we've attached the zipper to it. Trim it down to 9 inches, which is the same size as the base gusset. So the way I normally do that, mine has already been trimmed, so I'm just going to talk you through it. I was just overzealous yesterday. I was making tiny adjustments, and before I knew it, I was like halfway done, and I thought, oops. So what I normally do is take a ruler. I know what I want is 9 inches. Half of 9 is 4.5. So I place the 4.5 right in between my zipper teeth. And this is where you know if your zipper is straight or if it isn't straight. But even if it's minor, as in it's just a bit wonky, you're fine. Mine is a bit wonky and it is fine. So what we normally do is we place the ruler right as in on the halfway mark of the size we want. So we want 9. The halfway mark is 4.5. So the 4.5 point on our ruler, or whatever we're using, well, it has to be a ruler anyway, 4.5 stays right in the middle of the zipper teeth. And whatever's on the excess of that, whatever is on the right hand side, whatever amount of fabric is on the right hand side, we can always trim that off, because that would be exactly 4.5. So we do that all the way down, and we just, because it's a long piece, we just have to keep doing it in sections until we get all the way to the bottom. Alternatively, if you've got a long ruler, one of those, you can just place the 4.5 right in the center, and you should be able to get it done in 2 cuts. Just a second, I'm trying to see if there is anyone on. Okay, so hello everyone, how are you? I've already started, so if you've missed anything, you can just go back a little bit just to hear what I've said. But welcome every single person that's viewing. It's great to have you here. So that's what I've done. So if you've got a longer ruler, you can just place the 4.5 mark right in between the teeth of your zipper and cut off any excess on your right hand side. Once you've done that all the way down for the right hand side, then we turn the zipper gusset to the other side, and we do the same thing for the other side as well, as in for the right, with the left hand side. What was previously our left hand side would now be our right hand side. So we do the same thing, and by the time you do that, you measure the width of it. Your gusset should be exactly 9 inches, as in including the zipper in the middle. So every single thing should be 9 inches. And once we've done that, then we'll be ready to move on to the next stage. Now, if you remember, when we added the foam to the zipper gusset, which was one of the first things we did at the last session, we had to sew down 1/4 of an inch to hold the foam down onto the zipper gusset. Now, when you trim off, chances are you are going to trim off that basting stitch that you used to hold it in place. So we might want to put that back on. I have put that back on this one. And if you would like to do that as well, this would be a good opportunity for you to just run down from top to bottom on both sides, 1/4 of an inch. And if you want to trim that the foam away from the seam allowance, you can do that as well. Remember, you're only attaching the foam to the outer. When you do the seam, when you attach the foam, it's only to the outer fabric, it's not to the lining fabric. So when you're doing your basting stitch to hold the foam down, make sure it's only on the outer lining. Once that has been done, we now move on to the next stage of completing the back gusset. So you need your outer base gusset, which would have been the C, well, CD combined. So it's your C. And what we will have to do is with the zipper gusset. Hi, Carol. Just 2 seconds there. Hi, Carol. How are you? Nice to have you on board. So with the zipper gusset right side up, we take the base gusset facing right side down. We place it at the very, very top there to match. And because we've cut the gussets, both gussets to be the same size, you will notice that they're exactly the same. So what we want to do is we need to sew that right across the short edge. And to do that, we don't want to catch the lining fabric in any way. So we're going to fold the lining fabric out of the way completely. So when we're sewing, it doesn't disturb us, it doesn't get in the way. So I'm just stitching that on. Then I just use clips to hold the lining fabric away from the main fabric. So as you can see there, this is the lining fabric, which I've clipped away from everything I'm doing. And this is the outer fabric, and this is the outer base gusset. So what I'm going to do is I need to sew that, join that together, but I don't want to sew over the zip. So it has to be done in 2 stages. You would need to sew as close as possible to the zipper seam line there. And you sew from there out. Well, even if you're sewing inwards, just make sure you stop right within the seam there, as in the seam stitches right there. And then you do the same thing for the other side as well. So you have to do it in 2 steps. 1 step, stop, then start again from the same stitch in there and then stop. Now these allowance for this one is 3/8 of an inch. So make sure that when you're sewing that, we have to make sure that it's 3/8 of an inch seam allowance to sew that down. So we take that to a sewing machine and we sew. As much as it's possible, try and backstitch at the beginning and wherever it is you're going to stop, just to reinforce the stitches. Sorry, my pedal went for a walk there. Okay, it's now back. Hi, Sharon. Nice to see you. It's the machine bag sewing pattern by Mrs. H. You can find that on the Mrs. H website. Hi, Sharon Perret. Okay, so we're going to start sewing the 2 gussets together. And like I said, please remember to backstitch. and just as close as possible as you can to the seam line, not going over it. And then you stop. So as you can see, I've just sewn from the edge all the way to just the stitch line there, and I'm going to do the same thing for the other side as well. Okay, so as you can see, it's been attached, and we haven't gone over. There will be a space in there, but don't worry about it because we're still going to sew over. We're going to sort of like top stitch over there, so over the top. So don't worry about that. So we've done one side of it, and we will have to do the same thing again on the other side. Just a second, let me see if that's done at the same time. Okay, so we do the other side as well at the same time before we do the top stitching. So first things first, we make sure the lining fabric is way, way, way out of the way. So we grab those, clip them out of the way just to make sure that we don't catch them. Because when we add the base gusset for the lining fabric as well, we're going to have to move the outer fabric out of the way so we don't catch it in any way. So you can see we're forming a nice round gusset that's going to go round the outer panel of the bag. So we make sure that we align our base gusset with the zipper gusset. And then we're going to take it to the sewing machine, and we're going to stitch down again 3/8 of an inch, back stitch at the beginning and at the end. And also make sure you don't go over the zipper in any way. Just stop shy of the zipper stitches right in the middle there. One side done, and then we go to the other side, which is just right across, and just do the same thing again. Hi, Catherine. Thanks for joining us again today. And then we move to the other side and quick sewing again, and we should be done. Okay, so as we can see, the base gusset has now been added to the zipper gussets, right sides, as that has now been done. And the next thing we're going to do is Now we're going to repeat the whole process for the lining gusset as well. So this time around, we want the zipper gusset to be out of the way, the main fabric zipper gusset. And we just want to do this all over again on the lining gusset. So, let me see how easy this is going to be. So right sides together, lining right sides together again. And pin it down or clip it down, whichever is easier. Now it was easy for me to move the lining out of the way when I was doing the outer fabric, but because the outer fabric is a bit bulkier, it's still doable. Just fold it. You might have to sort of persuade it into position, but it does fold down, so that's fine. And we're going to 3/8 of an inch. I've never made this bag before, so I'm making it the first time, as most of you out there will be making it as well. So if I make any mistakes, it is a genuine mistake because I have not made it before. Okay. Thanks, Catherine. Catherine says she would not dare miss it, so 3/8 of an inch. We sew from one end right to the zipper and back stitch at the beginning and at the end. This will be very, very interesting. Let's see. You might want to go slowly on this one because of the bulk on the main fabric, and if it doesn't sort of like lie flat the way you want it, feel free to take out the excess, but just make sure that you don't go over the zipper and that you stop just shy of the zipper stitches. Okay, yes, victory. Now we're going to do it for the other side as well, and like before, just try and persuade it into position. It will work, it will go, and it will fit under your sewing machine because the foam is really soft and flexible anyway, so it's just squishes down, and you can just sew right over it. Well, you can just sew right wherever you want. So we're going to carefully do that now. Okay, so that's one part of the lining gusset done, and then we're going to do the other part as well. They are enhancements, trust me, Catherine. So we do the same thing on the other side, and we make sure that we only sew the lining. We don't catch the main fabric in any way. Okay. Broken thread. Oh gosh. For no just reason, the thread just breaks. It can't tell me it's hard enough already. I've only just started. Okay, done. I'm just going to start all over again because it's close to the beginning. And Ketos. Okay, I've taken most of it out, so it should be fine. And second time lucky. Okay, yeah, that looks a lot better. And remember, we're only going as far as the stitches, the zipper stitches, not further than that. And then we do the other side. Okay, so both gussets have been done. So we've got the altas facing and we've got the lining facing. So what we want to do now is with the wrong sides together, so that means we have to turn them right side. Hope I don't have any clips or anything anywhere. Make sure you've taken out any clips or any pins or anything you've got in it, because I have a tendency of forgetting that I have clips and things in, so let me see. None there, none there. Yep, seem to be fine on that score. So with the wrong sides together, we're now going to top stitch over the stitches we've just done. So that will be one of them, and you want to make sure you go right across. So that's the place where we stitch. That's what the right side looks like. And what we want to do now is we want to stitch right across, making sure that we close off that hole, and make sure you catch the lining at the back as well. So you're top stitching over the zip, just over the zip, not, well, sorry, I said the whole thing, but it's just over the zip ends there to close any holes that are there. And yeah, which is why you need to catch the lining as well, so that that hole there is closed off properly. Yes, and it also closes off the zip ends as well, so your zip doesn't keep disappearing and falling off. So it's just that bit that we're going to sort of like stitch over. And what's the best way to do this, if it will fit under my, yes, with a little bit of persuasion it will fit. And like I said, it's just a top stitch, so please increase your stitching to whatever the stitch length you like for top stitching is, and sew right over the zipper, just over that zipper gap, making sure that it catches the lining at the back and that it closes off nicely. So because my thread is fairly sort of like, it matches the fabric, it's just right there. So you might not be able to see the stitches I've made, but it's just right there. So we'll do that for the other side as well. And this one you might be able to see properly. And again, just persuade it nicely to fit under the sewing machine. And make sure that the lining is nice and it's not sort of like folded over or anything. It's nice and smooth at the bottom before you start sewing. And then remember to put your zipper foot down, because I keep forgetting and the machine screams at me when I do that. And then we top stitch. And so that one is a bit more visible because of the difference in thread. So it's just there, and you can see it's been stitched down. Try and make it as straight as possible. Mine always goes wonky for whatever reason, and it's fine. Okay, So once we've done that, we're going to put this aside for a while we start preparing the one of the outer panels. And seriously, we're almost done, because once the panels have been prepared and everything, every other thing just goes together. So we're going to take one of the outer panels, whichever one you like best, and we're going to take our cotton webbing. So we're going to cut that in half. It was a stonking 2 lengths of, just a second. It says 2 lengths of 59. I will just verify that. Just a second, I'm just verifying the length of the cotton webbing. So that's 3 meters, 150, 150, that's 300. So 150, yeah, 150 length for each one. Okay, yeah, perfect. And then we just cut it into half. So I just find the median point and snip it. So that's a 50-50 snip. So I take one of that. If you're using nylon webbing, I'm using cotton webbing, so it's all cotton. But if you're using nylon one, once you've cut the edges, you might want to seal it off with a flame so that it doesn't unravel or anything like that, because they do have a tendency to unravel. So that's just another piece of advice, just in case. And if it's cotton, you might want to use fray check or fabric glue at the ends as well, just to keep them from fraying and stuff. But where is my fabric glue? Oh, see. Okay. I do have some fray check, but seriously, I don't know where it is. I know it's somewhere. And I'll do the other one while I'm at it. So just add some glue or burn the edges, whichever one, depending on what you're using. So if it's cotton, you want to make sure that you're using either the fray check or fabric glue to make sure that the ends don't unravel. And if you're using nylon, you want to make sure that you want to try and sort of seal it with a flame, just to make sure that it doesn't unravel either. So I shall leave that to percolate like a nice tea while I work with that. So the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to attach this to the outer fabric. Now it says to use double-sided basting tape as well to hold this down and all that, but I pin every single thing down. Anything that says use glue or use anything, I use my trusted pins. So I'm going to be using pins, but please feel free to use double-sided tape if you've got any to hand. I know I've got them somewhere. I use them for quilting, but not for bag making or any other thing. So, but please feel free to use them. Okay. So 13 inches. 3 inches. First things first, you need to find the center of your panel. Okay, with this one, it might just be easier to find it this way because it doesn't crease properly. So because of the foam at the back, and that's why I'm using this, just to, yeah, just to have an idea of exactly where things need to go. So it's going to be 3 inches from the center, which is ruler. So 3 inches is right there. And on the other side as well. 3 inches. Where are you? 1, 2, 3. 3, 3. So that's 3 inches. So you want to make sure that you place the webbing right on the 3-inch mark. So the inner edge of your webbing should be right on the 3-inch mark. And make sure that the cut edges of your webbing matches up with the bottom of matches up nicely with the raw edges at the bottom of your bag. So it's going to be something like that. So the raw edges match. That's 3 inches from the center. So 3 inches, the edge of that is on the 3-inch, and just make sure you place it nicely along the edge. You can draw a line if you want to, or as in just draw the whole 3-inch line and just place your fabric all the way around. But I haven't done that. And we do that on the other side as well, making sure that the raw edges match right at the bottom and that the edge is right there on the 3-inch mark from the center. Now, make sure the bag loops the right way across the very top. And I shall show you that once I've done it. Okay. So what you're trying to achieve is you want the edge, the inner edge to be right on the 3-inch mark. And you place your webbing, it folds right over the top and it comes down on the other side, and the inner is again on the 3-inch mark from the center as well. So as you can see, the fold, make sure that it's not twisted right at the top, and make sure that you've put your curve the right way. So you can actually go both ways, but just make sure that you've placed it the right way so it curves the right way around. So it's the inner goes all the way round the out. It's on the outer when you're at the top, and it goes back into the sort of like the inner part. The outer goes round and it goes round the back and comes round on the outer on the other side. So that's what it should technically look like. And once we've done that, we're going to sew the long edges are going to be the top and the bottom of the bag. I had a problem with this after cutting out, after the very first day. I looked at it and I thought, oh my goodness, I've cut this the wrong way. Because I thought the bag was meant to be that. I don't know why, but no sewing machine has that shape. But my brain just said it had to be that way. But I was looking at it after we had cut it all up and everything, and I realized, yes, this is the way it's meant to be. So the long edge is at the top and at the bottom, and the short edges are on the sides. So that's the way the bag is meant to be. So I cut it right. And just bear that in mind when you're trying to place every single thing and put every single thing in place. So we're going to sew along the edges of the handle, and we're going to stop shy of 2 inches of the top. So I'm just going to put pins in there to show me exactly where 2 inches. Where's my trusted ruler? So 2 inches from the top would be there. And we're going to be sewing and creating the box with an X in the middle. And that is just to reinforce the bag, to make sure that because of the heavy load, and look, it's precious. My sewing machine is one of the most precious things I have. So I want to make sure that whatever I'm carrying it in is nice and it's sturdy and it's going to bear the weight of it. So we're going to be using a box, as in sewing the box with a cross in the middle, just to make sure it's properly reinforced. And again, if you do decide and you've got rivets and you've got a rivet press, right in the middle of the cross, you might want to place rivets just to make sure that it holds properly as well. But that would be up to you. So we're going to sew and do this cross at the top. If you don't back stitch here, it will be okay, because remember we're still going to attach all of these together, so you will have another opportunity to sew all the way around it. But if you do want to back stitch, please feel free to. So I'm starting right at the very bottom, coming all the way up to the 2-inch pin that I've put up there, and then I will go back the other way, and then I'll come back and make a box. Or you could come up, make the box with the X in the middle, and then go all the way down. Whichever one is easier. And please remove your pins as you get to them, and so we don't have to change needles along the way. And if, like me, you lose your place, don't wing it, just measure it. Okay, this should be fun. And then yeah, that would work. So I'm going to make the box with a cross in the middle right at the top before I whiz all the way down to the other side. I'm being careful and slow. I'm trying to make it so that when I finish on the side I'm yet to sew, and just sew right down, because it just makes it that little bit easier. I can feel my thread, well, I can see it moving. Okay, so as you can see there, one side of it has been attached, and you can see that it's got that cross in there, the box with the cross in the middle. And you can place your rivets in there if you want. You can place 4, 5 rivets in there, just to sort of make sure that it's properly reinforced. And you can go over the X more than once if you want to as well. But basically, that's how you need to do the box with the cross in the middle. Now we're going to do the other side as well. And anybody else that has joined us since the last time I said hello, welcome to our nice little group, Sewing with Mrs. H. Well, I'm not Mrs. H, I'm just sewing one of her patterns. But so we're going to do the other side as well, and same principle. So box at the top, right 2 inches down from the bottom, and then finish off. Once we've done this panel, we will do the other panel as well. And like I did for the last one, I'll start at the bottom. When I'm sewing and I'm not used to every single thing pinging all around me, so I'm hearing pings and I'm like, oops, what did I do wrong? But I know I haven't done anything wrong yet, hopefully. But please feel free to ask questions. I will keep checking and making sure that questions are answered and all that. But So now at the point where we do the box, I'm just making sure that the boxes more or less match on either side. Or you can actually draw the lines where you want the boxes to be exactly. You can draw them on, but I normally just sort of eyeball everything and it works. Just checked this one with the ruler and it seems to be fine. If I'm talking to myself, it's just because I'm trying to reason out why I'm going a certain way and not a certain way. It happens a lot when I sew. So one bag outer done. And as you can see, that's the handle and it's been attached to the outer. So we need to do that for the second outer as well. And this time, I'm going to test myself and see how much I can remember. I knew I forgot a pin somewhere. See, I just found a pin I forgot in there. Yeah. So I'm going to test myself and see if I can remember all the measurements the way they're meant to be. So, but in my brain, it's telling me I've already forgotten something, which I'm going to have a sneak peek at. Okay. So what we want to do is measure 3 inches from the center. See, that's another pin I missed. I can see one, and the other one has disappeared. Come on. Oh, there you are. It's too faint and I'm half blind, so I don't see. There. Okay. So mark the center of your panel, 3 inches out from the center. Make sure just put pins in just to mark where the 3 inches go. And if you want to be as efficient as I can be sometimes, mark the top, mark the bottom. As in, I'm just marking the top of and bottom of my ruler. My ruler is only 9.5 inches long, but the panel is longer than that, which is fine. So when I place the webbing on, make sure you're placing it on the 3-inch mark, right along that line, all the way to the top. And pin it down. And then 2 inches from the top, you want to mark that as well, because that's where your sewing is going to stop, and you're going to like create the box with an X in the middle. So make sure you mark that off as well. If you've got a marker, it might just make life a lot easier for you, but like I say, I do things the difficult way, in my opinion, but it always works for me, so I tend to stick to what works. And then on the other side as well, make sure that your webbing does not fold the wrong way. The handle is exactly the way you want it to look, as in it curves with the inner going at the top. It's on the outer side and coming down on the inner on the other side, and then the outer going round the top, round the back, and coming down on the wrong side on the other side. And then we pin into submission. And then 2 inches down from the top again, stick another pin in just for good measure. 2 inches. And once that's been done, we're just going to go and sew around, make all our boxes and stuff, and then we move on to the next interesting bit, which I always run away from because it has to do with attaching the gussets, I think. But we shall have fun trying to work all of that out. I've had my machine for over 10 years, and somewhere along the line I marked it, as in I marked half an inch for seam allowance, and there is a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and I always use a 1/4 foot, so I know that whenever I sew with that foot, it's always a 1/4. Recently, like I said, I've had this bag for this sewing machine for over 10 years, and the markings I would have made maybe about 7-8 years ago. So it's not like it's something new. So I think it was about last month or so, I was making a bag and it called for 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. And I kept using this particular marking I had, and I was so sure, 100% sure it was right. Anyway, all my bags always came out great, which was fine. And then the other day I was cleaning my machine. I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I was cleaning my machine and I just decided to, play with some of the seam allowances, the whatever I had on there, the little stickers and stuff. And I was measuring to make sure that, I could put things back normally and all. And then I suddenly realized that what I thought was 3/8 of an inch was actually half an inch. So every single time a pattern called for 3/8 of an inch, I had always been using half an inch. And when it wants me to do 3/8 of an inch plus an extra 1/4 inch just to give me half an inch, I've been doing half an inch plus a 1/4 of an inch. And I just couldn't help it. I just burst out laughing and I thought to myself, oh my goodness. But luckily for me, all my bags turned out really great. So I don't know if there's anybody out there that has happened to, but I just thought I put all the markings there, so I should have known better, but I just believed, nah, It has to be right. It has to be that particular one. And oops, it wasn't. So it's always nice to check and to check again. Okay, we're almost done there. Okay, so one side has been done with a nice little box in the center, and we'll just do the other side of it, and then that should be it for the handles. Like I said, this is one of the rare patterns of, well, that I've already done of Mrs. H's patterns, where I don't have to sort of like go through the whole alphabet to get it done, because normally it's like, you know, I just keep going and it's A, B, C, D, E, F, and it always makes me laugh and giggle every single time that happens. But this one has just really been a nice one. So there's something wrong with my thread. Oh gosh, I know what the problem is. You move to one side, you come down this way, and you start behaving. We're on this side. Oh, Catherine, I can see that I'm in good company then. It just always makes me laugh when you think of the fact that, oh my goodness, you know, I know every single thing there is to know about my sewing machine, and then I find out actually I don't. Or like the one I found out the other way, that I could actually make my machine sew backwards. So now I'm sewing forwards, but I can set it in such a way that it sews from the bottom all the way back to the top. And I found out that the other day, and I had to tell my hence that sewing group. And I said, you won't believe, after so many years of having this sewing machine, I've just found out you can do this. Of course, everybody was laughing at me as usual, but it was nice. It's nice to find out new things about your toy. Okay, we're reaching the boxy part now. And again, I'm going to try and match that. All I'm just doing is making sure the boxes match on either side, but if you eyeball it, I'm sure it's going to be fine as well. sewing for quite a long time now, but I've never ever made a backpack. I love backpacks to bit, but I've never ever made one. But ever since I started sewing with Mrs. H, as in, which is not too long ago, just before Christmas, thereabouts, I've made 4 backpacks in that time. And don't ask me, but I've really enjoyed making them. And I've never made a bag with a gusset because I run away from making gussets and stuff. This is my second one in the space of 2 months. And that just proves to you how easy and straightforward our patterns are. Catherine, I use a Juki F600. So those are the handles completed on both of them. And this is where it gets a bit hairy, but I'm sure it's going to be lots of fun. Trust me, while I try and figure out exactly what needs to be done. Okay, so those are the 2 alters done. And we move on to the next one. So like I said, if you do want to add rivets, please go ahead and just rivet the hell out of it, you know, just there, right in the center. Just add your rivets to both of them, just to make sure that they stay really nice and well together. Now the fun part. Oh my goodness. We'll get through this. Trust me. We're going to attach the outer gusset to the outer main panel. Like I said, this part is not really my funnest part, but it needs to be done and it will be done. So, using my trusted clips, and as you can see, I have them in abundance. And I'll have to read through all of this because seriously. So if you haven't marked the centers of your gussets, or if you've marked them and you had to trim them off for one reason or the other, please try and do that again now. And if you find any hanging threads, please try and snip them off. So will I be able to figure out where my center is? Yeah, because that and that. Okay, so all you just need to do is put a little snip in there somewhere. Snip. Make sure it's within the seam allowance so that it doesn't show. I've only done one side, so I'll have to do the lining as well, but that's okay. One, two, okay. And for the lining as well. So I'm just going to do it for the lining and for this and this come together. And then that and that come together. And just a tiny little snip there. And on the other side as well. Just a tiny little snip. So I'm just putting the So I'm just marking the centers of the zipper gusset, not of the base gusset as well. I've left those ones because it should be fine even if it wraps around a little bit. So I've marked my centers, and the main pieces as well. If we haven't already marked the centers, we should do that as well. And like I said before, it's just putting a tiny little snip in the seam allowance, so we know exactly where we are. And it just makes it a lot easier, because once you match all those tiny little snips together, it's easy to now sort of ease the rest of the fabric around it. So that has been snipped, and okay, so all of them, so both have now been snipped. Okay, so we're going to have to separate that from that. And we're going to have to clip one of those round the gusset. Now, let me figure out exactly how it goes. So that's the top, and that's the top. So we match those. Make sure that the lining fabric is well away from what we're doing, as in just sort of move it out of the way. And then what we need to do is, with the right sides facing, yeah, it has to be the right sides facing. Yeah, right sides facing, and clip all the way around. Now for the curved edges, please feel free to sort of like snip round the curves so that it's easy to sort of manipulate and go round. So what I normally just do is I just place tiny little snips within the seam allowance to make it easy for me to go around the bend. So just tiny little snips all the way around, and we continue to work our way around this, like I said, adding gussets to any single thing is my worst nightmare. Well, we shall see how it goes. Because this is bulky as well, I am not liking this too much, but hey, we'll get there. Trust me. So she says. Okay, looking good. And when we get to the next curve again, we just sort of like snip right in, just in within the seam allowance. We just give it nice tiny little snips. And then we work it through. I tend to open up the seam allowances when I'm when I get to them, and if I do see them and remember, because it helps reduce the bulk as I'm sewing round. So we're working right round the outer, and it's all going to sort of fold in and look really, really complicated and funny, but don't let that deter you. Just carry on pinning right all around the edge you started from. Pinning or clipping, whichever one works the best for you. Because I remember when I was making the book bag and I got to the part where I had to add all the, do the gusset stuff, and I just thought to myself, this doesn't really make sense what I'm doing. But I followed all the instructions all the way to the end, and finally it did make sense. So let us all be encouraged. It does make sense. Like I said, it does make sense, and I can smile. Please make sure your handles are right inside, as in the bag, as you're putting the gusset round. Please make sure the handles are inside, because you don't want to sew them into your gusset as you're sewing round. It's a bit fiddly and a bit funny because of the bulk and all, but it does work. So don't worry about it. You just pin or clip, and as long as you're pinning and clipping the right way, everything just magically falls into place. And if it doesn't fall into place, just send me a message and we'll try and figure out why it's not falling into place. So this is what we're doing, as we can see. There is method to the whole madness of the whole thing. We're almost round to where we started from. And please make sure your zips are right. If you have your zips right at the center of your gusset, make sure the zips are right where the handles are right at the top, because that's where the top of your bag is going to be. Because I know it's easy to make the mistake of putting every single thing all together and your zipper is in the wrong place. So that was why when I started with the zip. And as you can see, that's the top where the handle is. And that's my zip. So when the bag is opened, it's open that way, and that's the way I want it to be up, and my fabric is facing the right way up anyway, so that's a big plus. So we carry on forcing this into submission. And make sure the lining fabric is out of the way, because we don't want to sew that to the main body bag yet. Well, I don't think we would need to, but we just don't want it sewn to the main body. So be careful that the lining does not get cut when we're pinning down or clipping down as we go along. Okay, so as we can see, you can actually fold the lining fabric all out of the way if you want to, as in, but starting off, it's a bit tricky to do that, so just bear that in mind. So as you can see, this is what we're trying to achieve. The panel, A panel, has been clipped all the way around to just one side of the gusset. So once you start on one side of the gusset, stick to that side all the way around. Make sure you clip your edges so it's easy for the fabric to ease around easily. And once we start sewing, you will find out that most of it looks all squished up on one side, but once we start sewing, it sort of gives, as in it gives, because when we get to the curves and we do the curves properly, it sort of gives a bit more as we go around. So we're going to sort of try and do that for now. Start, and I need space, and then we're going to start to sew around. So you want the gusset facing up. It's a lot easier to do it this way because it sort of draws in all the extra fabric if you do it this way, as opposed to if you do it this way, because when we sew normally, but the bottom fabric sort of like pulls in as we sew along. So what we're going to do is we're going to sew with the gusset facing upwards, and it just makes it a lot easier, and it's makes the finish a lot better. Any excess fabric is all pulled in. And actually we're using 1/2 inch, and I already have my 1/2 inch marked. Yes, but just to be on the safe side, I will check again, because I'm dancing and my mind just said, are you sure? And yes, my ruler says I am sure, so I know exactly where the 1/2 inch mark is. Now, because of the layers, seriously, you might want to use a bigger needle. I always use a bigger needle for every single thing, because like I said, I quilt, and most of my needles are just quilting needle anyway. So I'm used to, my machine and me, we're used to lots of layers. That doesn't mean the needle is not going to break along the way. I'm not sure, but fingers crossed it does not break. So we're going to use 1/2 inch seam allowance, and we're going to go all the way around. And we try not to catch the lining gusset. We make sure that we push it all out of the way as we sew. So let us start right at the top there. So I'm going to start where I've placed my notches, and we'll take it from there. And remember, this one is actually 1/2 inch seam allowance. If you need to, please, please, please go slowly. There is no rush with this. And we're not going to do anything really fantastic, nothing much today. So please let us go nice and slow so we get this right, because we're practically at the end of this. So nicely tease every single thing into place and go nice and slow. Okay. Looking good. Please try not to yank at the needle or anything when you're sewing round. Just gently ease anything you want to ease right round. So I'm getting to one of the first corners. So I'm trying to make sure that every single thing is where it's meant to be. And ensure that you're still going round with ½ inch seam allowance as best as you can. Just carefully sew round that edge. Okay, so the curve, nicely gone through the curve now. And if you're like me and you've done the curve, is like, you know, I just start dancing inside. You can't see me dancing now, but I actually am dancing because I have 3 more to go. I shall not rejoice too soon. So when you get to your corners, just try and go nice, slow. There is no rush. Just make sure that you have enough clips around your corners, so when you get to them, you can easily just take them out as you go and you don't lose that curve as you go along. Now, number 2. Okay, just coming out of the second curve. Just reminds me of car racing, you know, when they say they've reached the first curve, they're coming out of the second curve into the straight stretch. Oh well, this is something like that for me. Yep. Please feel free to stop, pause, reposition your fabric before you carry on again, because there's no point in putting all this effort in and then it not turning out to be nice and lovely when you finish it. Okay. I'm trusting we're all quiet because on the comment section, because we're all concentrating on what we're doing. My the edges always tend to recede. Why? I don't know. Well, I've never even tried to figure out why they do that, but they always seem to do. And I bring out my trusted calipers. Oh, they have another name. I'll remember it once this session is all over. But I know they've got another name. I call them hemostat. I call them calipers. I call them something else. There's another name for them. A simpler name, but trust me, I wouldn't remember it now. So I always use that to hold the edges together as I get close. And please remember to take them right out of the way before you sew, because a few times I've sewn over them. I know what that means. So please be very careful if you're using a pair of them. Last curve. Like I said, slow and steady actually does work. So please go nice, slow, steady, no rush. And if you want to take a break, feel free to take a break. Okay. Now, there's part of it where I did not catch the whole half an inch, somewhere there. So I'll need to go over that. But there is, all I'm just going to do is take it out and do it again. But yes, did not catch the whole. Let me see if I can just run over that. one more time. Okay, all cut now. So we have that sewn down all the way around, and then we're going to do the same thing with, let's quickly see what we open. So the next thing we have to do is please open up your zip fully. The zip, just open it all the way, because I can see us struggling to try to open it from the back, which doesn't always work all very well. So please open the whole zip, and then we repeat for the other panel of the outer panel. So what we're going to do is we're just going to attach it again like we did for the previous one, making sure that our lining panel is way out of the way. So we're not going to be toying around with the lining fabric in any way. Make sure that your handle is right inside, and match up the gussets like we did for the other one, and then we're going to just sew all the way around it. Snip the corners when you get there so that it's easy to ease around. If I was sewing all by myself without, doing a sew along like this, I wouldn't be snipping into the corners. I would just sew all the way around it without bothering with any of that. But I don't want anybody to do the wrong thing or, make a mistake or whatever. So we'll do it the right way. So, and once you've done one of these, it's so much easier doing the other part, because you know exactly what you're doing and you know it's going to work. So we're just going to whiz through the second outer fabric, and then okay. So we're clipping all the corners and everything into submission as we normally would. And as you're clipping, if you haven't opened up your zipper, I would say please do that now, because once we sew that together, the whole bag is enclosed. So bear that in mind. Oh yes, tweezers. Yes, Catherine. It's I knew it. I knew there was an easier word for it, but for the life of me, just it never comes to me. Please make sure you don't catch your lining, and if necessary, just fold it out of the way completely. I'm going to write tweezers on my wall now because I know I'm going to forget again. So I'm just going to write it and pin it somewhere. Tweezers. Okay. When I snip the edges, I try to place my fingers at the bottom of this so that I don't make a mistake and sew and cut into anything on the other side. So also bear that in mind. Okay, so we've pinned or clipped every single thing in place. And what's the time? Yep, 15 minutes. We're going to do a quick whiz count, and if we don't finish it, it's fine. We'll just finish it tomorrow. But with the gusset still facing up, so that means the sewn side should be facing upwards. We're just going to have a nice quick whiz round zipper. Check your handles that they're facing up towards the very top. When you close your zipper, they will be at the top. Make sure it's all there nice and looking good. Then we go to our sewing machine and we have another nice little dance round. Half an inch, everybody. Please remember it's half an inch seam allowance. So nice and slow in tiny little bursts. We're just going to sew around that, making sure we maintain our half an inch seam allowance. And the funniest thing is, with all the bulk and everything, with the foam and all that, it just seems to glide through, a regular sewing machine. So it's just one of the other reasons why I just, like doing this, because I do have another sewing machine that's a bit more industrial, semi-industrial. But I just like showing, anything I need to do on a regular one, because I want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to sort of give it a try. And like I said, if the bulk is too much, consider trimming, the foam away from the seam allowance, so it does not get in the way. And it makes it a lot easier to sort of just sew right through. But this has really, really worked well. So we still have 15 minutes. I know I said 15 minutes earlier, but I was adding a few extra bits on. No! Run out of bobbin thread. Gosh! Right at anyway, so run out of bobbin thread, so it will be a very, very nice place to stop for today. So what we're just going to do is just finish that off, and yes, that was where we were meant to stop today anyway. So I'm just going to finish that off for today, and tomorrow when we come back, we'll put the lining together and finish off the bag. So we're more or less finished. But thank you so very much for joining me today. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience. And thank you for entertaining me and for just being there for me to talk to. It's been great. And I hope to see you all tomorrow. Thanks again and have a lovely evening, everybody. Bye. I know. I keep running out of Bobby's thread at the wrong time.